Benjamin Franklin once said, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." The fact is, quality matters. Join us as we make quality fun, interesting, and accessible to companies of all levels. Quality Matters is a must-listen for all things quality. Listen in, ask questions, and get back to doing what matters most. Quality Matters, brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified.
Well, hello and welcome back to Quality Matters. I'm Kyle Chambers. We've got Caleb Adcock here, and you got a kind of a different topic for us today. Tell us a little bit about it today.
Yeah, I mean, it's as we were talking about, it's like, I know we touch on this a lot just because it's such a central focus of quality management systems. But I'm like, I don't think we've done a deep dive lately, if ever.
No,
I think it comes with topics like risk and stuff like that. But yeah, approved suppliers. So
it's a good one. It's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah, and it's something that all of the consultation we do, it's something everybody deals with. Everybody's got a big old list of suppliers, and everybody's got a different definition of key suppliers or critical suppliers, and everybody's so we thought we'd just kind of go through some standards and some topics, ideas, and
I like it. Yeah, it's funny. It's like every time we do consultation and implementation or something, we ask for the supplier list, and I'll always tell folks, hey, we want to try to whittle this down, and I explain to them what quality critical is.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about that in a minute, but I'm like, look, you just need to give me the folks that impact your product or your service that you do, or are just super critical to your business functioning. And like, oh, okay. And then inevitably what we get is the output from their financial system. And we've got every lawyer they've talked to.
Yeah.
We've got the lawn guy on there. We got the person that puts up their sign on their billboard. We got their web developer. I'm like, we don't really, I can't say they have no impact on quality. But this is actually, okay, so this is a cool point. So we've had a lot of questions about API Q1 since it's come out, right?
Yeah.
And it definitely, the auditors are a lot tougher on Q1 for the 10th edition than they have been in the past. But one of the things that we've seen a lot of feedback on is they really want to see approved suppliers being addressed from that kind of risk perspective. And it's just a little tweak in the language, but it's the same thing we've said all along. It's like you're selecting these quality critical folks because they present a significant risk that merits monitoring the supplier.
Yeah.
That's it. But it does mean you need to make sure your procedure says that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's maybe set the stage on, what the definition would be. I think you got a couple of the standards out, or, so when we say approved supplier and, we put all this focus on it and all this, all these ideas behind it, we're not talking about the lawn guy, or we're not talking about, So yeah, I guess we need to define what suppliers need the most attention.
And let me preface real quick though and say, whenever you're going through doing this exercise in your company, you may wind up with different answers than we come up here with here.
Yeah.
Right. So depending on what your company is and what you do, your lawn guy could be critical.
Yeah. I think, it goes along with the risk,
Yes.
like I guess we could come up with an example of where the lawn guy would be critical. Maybe you're a sales firm or something like that, and people roll up to your thing and they see your, no.
That's true. No, that's true. Look,
or your barber. Yeah.
A lot of the bigger small businesses out there, definitely, large companies. They typically have a corporate headquarters where maybe not a lot of the production goes on, but they sure want to make it look nice.
Yeah.
And it's important. It's very important. It's part of how they maintain their image. And when you've got people, toss around several millions and billions of dollars, the appearance of your facility may actually be maybe something you want to consider.
Yeah. Hospital cleaning crews, or, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, that's another one too. So we had a medical device company that the cleaning crew and the folks that put out insecticide was an approved supplier. Not only an approved supplier, we had to review and approve all the chemicals they used to make sure there wouldn't be any weird interactions from it floating around in the air.
Yeah.
But I'd say a weld shop, who gives a crap who does the sprays bug spray around and cleans up the bathrooms and the kitchen at night.
Yeah.
It won't matter as long as it gets done.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, in a way, that kind of describes what it is. But let me pull here from ISO 9001. So we're looking at clause 8.4, control of externally provided processes, products, and services. Suppliers. Also, supplier vendor, there's no distinction between the two that the standard makes. I've seen folks in the past like make a distinction for some reason. That's on you, how you run your shop. But it says the organization shall ensure that externally provided products, processes, and services perform to requirements. Okay. Determine the controls to be applied to externally provided, blah, blah, blah. So the ones that you should consider are ones where it's intended for incorporation into products or services. Direct materials.
Okay.
This is your weld wire. This is your sheet metal. This is your plywood. This is your molded plastics. This is whatever it is that goes into your final product. If they are provided directly to the customer by the external provider. Okay, so if that supplier ships it directly to your customer, they better daggum will be.
Yeah.
Or a part of a process or a part of a process is provided by an external provider as a result of the decision by the organization. Meaning you just decided to outsource this piece of the work to someone else. Maybe you're overloaded. Maybe you don't have technical abilities. Who knows? But you made a conscious decision to send it to someone.
Yeah.
NDT, heat treat, weld work. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
So that's what 9001 says. Q1 gets more involved in it, but we're really kind of looking at the same thing. So they call it here outsourcing 5.5.1.7. When an organization chooses to outsource a process or activity in its quality management system, the organization shall verify that supplier satisfies applicable requirements. Okay. Saying the same thing so far. When an organization chooses to outsource the activity, the organization shall maintain responsibility for product conformance to specified requirements. Well, duh. And then, we go on kind of from there. It categorizes it a little bit later, 5.5.3.2, and, subsequently 0.3. They talk about critical purchases versus non-critical purchases. And this is the same concept here. For critical purchases, components, or activities, the organization's procedure shall, for verification, shall address documentation from the supplier. 9001 doesn't quite talk about it, but directly, but that's a good point. Do we need a COC? Do we need a calibration cert? What do we need? Do we need a heat treat report? Do we need a test report? What do we need with it?
Yeah.
We all know paperwork's critical in quality. Verification that the applicable versions were used when using specifications, drawings. Really good point. Again, these are things that maybe ISO 9001 being as generic as it is isn't going to directly call out. Inspection, testing, or verification requirements. Okay. So these are things for critical purchases, which does directly imply that you have to define what a critical purchase is, which you document in your procedure. And then they talk here about non-critical purchases. Non-critical products, components, or activities shall be verified in accordance with the organization's documented procedure. So whereas in 9001, you might be able to get away procedurally only addressing those quality critical type purchases, for API Q1, you have to say, if it's not a quality critical purchase, here's still how we handle it.
Yeah. And so, I think one of the, and I don't remember if this is off air, but, like examples like where do you put your receipts? Where do you, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So say you have a company card and you send guys to go buy, heck, I don't know. Maybe you send someone to go buy nails for the pallets. Cool. Yeah. We go buy nails for pallets from Home Depot. Bring a receipt. Maybe put for that. Maybe you send someone up to Best Buy to go buy paper and ink. All right, cool. What's your process for that? You want to account for it. I'm not saying put a lot of thought into it. I'm just saying talk to accounting and say, hey, how do you want them to handle it? However, accounting tells you how they want it to handle it, document it that way.
Yeah. And then do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then do it. But it is a tiny clause of the standard, but they do have a dedicated clause for it. So you have to address it.
Yeah, it seems like API is definitely way more in depth with their requirements there.
And they have a much better idea of who their customer is, so they get to be. I mean, like everything that's in here in 5.5.3.2 for critical purchases. I mean, I'm not going to do it right now, but we could go through and map 100% of that onto what ISO 9001 said. It's just they got more specific here. API did a little bit of the risk assessment for you already.
Hey.
So, but this is actually somewhere really cool when we talk about risk. When we talk about risk a lot, obviously anyone listening to the podcast knows I have a bit of a negative. Whoa, what did I do there? Sorry, Caleb, I killed you for a second. Anyone listening knows I've got a little bit of a negative taste in my mouth about the way folks often track or are told to track risk. But this is a real good one. This is a real good one. You just need to document in your procedure and document procedurally, like these type suppliers, these type products, and these type services, and get specific, present a significant risk to quality and customer satisfaction. So it's actually pretty cool. Like I like the 10th edition of API. So we go on to say in 5.6.4 validation of processes, it actually gives you a list of type suppliers that you really ought to have a validation process in place for. NDE, NDT, makes sense. Welding, heat treating, coating or plating. I mean, these are pretty most common ones. And it's like, you got to have documentation of what these folks did. Yeah. I mean, for NDE, NDT, you want a copy of the same thing for a weld, heat treating, all of it. You're going to want a copy of the credentials of the person that did the work. You want a copy of the inspection off of it. For NDT, you probably want a, actual copy of that guy's certification. Make sure he really is a level 2 that did it. And the guy that did the signed off on the report really is a level 3. Whether he's a full level 3 or a local level 3, you still want it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that definitely with NDT, and, we're getting a little specific there, but a lot of NDT shops have their own ways that they define their levels. And, I guess it's been a while since I've looked, but back when I was doing it, it was basically like, it was pretty ambiguous the way it was kind of done with who's a level 2 and your procedures, but everybody kind of had the same thing. And, there just wasn't some big overall, you have the AS&T, TC1A or whatever it was, where you could do that, but hardly anybody went through that process unless they're going to be the shop guy. Then you might have the AS&T TC1A level 3, who did all the extra paperwork and all that stuff. But you have to make sure that at least the procedures are there for your NDT people. And that should be with a supplier audit.
I mean, I don't know how frequently it is the case, but I'd say, a lot of times it's, you got that local level 3, which means they're level 3, but only for this shop.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And we're credentialed by this shop, not by correct credentialing thing. Yeah.
Correct.
So I guess that could be a next, unless you had more to say there, we could talk about audits.
No, I mean, you just, the critical thing with approved suppliers is you have to identify the types of suppliers, types of products and services, and you document this in your procedure for it. For your procedure for approved supplier list, purchasing, control of external providers, people name it 1,000 different ways, but it's the same thing. You want to document what type purchases and what type suppliers have to be pre-approved. And then when you approve a supplier, you want to make certain that you state what they're approved for.
Yeah, that's true.
I've talked about it a number of times, but the silliest and coolest example was someone had Walmart on their ASL. I was doing a third-party audit, and I'm like, you can't put Walmart on the ASL. Like, what are you buying from Walmart? This was an electronics manufacturer. Yeah. And they had a PC fan that they, like an 80 millimeter, I think, PC fan, big old fan that they would put into their cases. And they had done all the testing on it, and they could buy this fan for $10 or $20 from Walmart. And I think it was like $100 or more bucks from their specialty electronics store. So they put Walmart on there for one product. I'm like, can't argue with that.
And that kind of brings up a rabbit trail. Because it's like, I guess Walmart does have its own products now that on electronics or ONN or something. I think they actually make those maybe. Or maybe that's just, but like, okay, if you're buying it from Walmart didn't make that generally. So then where does that whole trail stop of who you're actually auditing?
So big box stores tend to get a little difficult to approve. And what it tends to be is you almost have to approve the big box store product by product.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a pain and so terrible and so much time, but just sit for a moment before you get mad and think, Kyle, that's crazy. We can't do that. Ask yourself, how many quality critical things do you buy from Grainger?
Yeah.
How many quality critical things do you buy from MSC? If you like saving money, Probably not a lot. If you like convenience, maybe a whole lot.
Yeah.
But it's easy to figure out. You could print a list of everything you've purchased from them in 5 years.
Yeah.
Heck, you could even take that list and then dump it into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT, can you write me a list of categories of the types of products and services that we've purchased from MSC or Grainger?
Yeah.
I mean, if it was just like a 5-page long list of things, and you just define what the type is. Like, hey, weld wire needs to be on there. But if we buy printer paper, who gives a crap? If we buy safety glasses, all we care about is their Z87.
Yeah. And it's the same with weld wire. You know, if you look at that box, it tells you like how that weld wire is graded and to what standard and all that stuff. So as long as the supplier is requiring that, or you see that printed on the box, I mean, that's proven that it's to a specific standard.
I mean, we could probably go down the rabbit trail of identification and traceability another day, because some shops, this is a real big deal. And you may be listening to it right now and kind of freaking out like, Kyle, do I need to track every inch of weld wire? Maybe yes, maybe no. I sure hope no, because it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that another day, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So you had an interesting quote.
Oh, well, yeah. So, you know, as we were talking about this idea, and I think I read over the weekend, and I'd seen, I don't know, I'd seen kind of briefly this conversation before, and it involved Elon Musk, but I never really like dove into it and read the context. So he apparently is in a meeting with an engineer or something like that, and he was like, "Tell me what the top 5 idiot parts are to this product." So the engineer's like, "Well, you know, I'd have to go look. I'd have to go." And he's like, "No, you should know that off the top of your head." And so, you know, when I was telling Kyle about this, and myself included, I'm like, "Well, what's an idiot part?" So apparently the definition was, and it's parts with the highest ratio of material cost to production cost. So with the idea being, if something material costs $200, but the part costs $5,000, that's an idiot part. You know, it's either over-engineered or the process is broken. And so Kyle and I were talking about
There's a reason it's so stupid expensive, and that should be a red flag.
Yeah. And that's, you know, anybody that knows about SpaceX and has seen like the evolution of the Raptor engine has seen that thing now has gone from, you know, an old Honda engine to now look like a 1940s. You know, there's no more hoses and wires. It's all streamlined, and
it's so
cool. I think
that
we were talking about how that it translates over to your suppliers. You know, because there's all the mention of your supplier is your partner, and you want to find the person that fits, you know, what you do the best. So if your supplier, let's say that you have a whole list and you do a bid and all that stuff, and you find that person, and, you know, Kyle mentioned coding and stuff like that, you find that person that's able to make that for you cheap, that is an indicator that you guys are, well, either
you're working well together.
Yeah. Or you guys are on the same page. Like, your companies are similar. They're tooled properly to make what you need, so it's not going to be expensive. That's who you should, you know, and that's just kind of we were just kind of sitting there thinking like, man, that's kind of a cool concept to go basically anywhere in production.
You know, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this if I was just someone else listening, and I'm like, you're absolutely right on everything. But the contrary voice that pops up is like, well, does ISO require to do that? Does API require to do that? Because, you know, this question we get a lot. Am I required to do that? I mean, you're not required to do it. Standard doesn't. You won't get a finding in an audit if you don't treat your suppliers this way. But I don't know about you, but I like making money rather than spending money. So if I get a chance to make a little more money and spend a little less money, I might take it.
Yeah, and my brain's bouncing, you know, but like, and I think I've said this before on the show, but one of the things that kind of opened my eyes is one time one of my quality managers said, you know, and I was young and learning all about this stuff and and she's like, Caleb, we got to make a profit.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what we're here for. That's what we're all here for. Like, we got to make a profit. We got to, you know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm trying to think about an example of something over-engineered or idiot part. I'm not coming up with any kind of external examples real quick, but I'll give you an example from us, because I had this conversation just last week. So I was talking to someone, they're wanting to do consultation work with us, and anyone that knows us know if we do consultation work with you beyond like writing one or two single procedures or documents, we're developing a management system for you.
Yeah.
We do that integrating TQA Cloud into it. And the reason we don't is because if I don't integrate TQA Cloud into it, it's going to take me a heck of a lot more time to build for you, and I'm going to charge you for it.
Yeah, the cost.
It's going to take you 5 years to recoup the cost, that cost or more.
And it makes sense. I mean,
it's stupid for us to do consultation without the software. Now, are there other shops out there that do it? Yeah. That's what they're good at. That's what they do. That's not what we do.
That's what they're tooled for. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
And it spoils over to anybody. If you ask somebody to do something that they don't normally do, or you need it right now, it's going to be expensive. And it's because the company's not set up to operate that way. So you're asking them to step out of the efficiency zone and into the,
well, we've done that a few times as well. Folks will call us up. They're like, Kyle, I need this right now. I'm like, I don't do this often. I think maybe I've done it 4 times.
Yeah.
But like, we're going to have to put a rush fee on this because, I'm going to be here till midnight working, and we're going to be working Saturday and Sunday to get it done. So it's going to cost you extra.
You're now paying me for my personal time, not my work time. Yeah.
Correct. But again, if you're doing that type of stuff frequently, it's probably a clue. You've got some inefficiencies in your system that you need to work out.
Yeah. I mean, if you're having to pay, let's say, a hotshot company on the drop of a dime, or somebody to sit there and wait at your shop for 2 days while you finish a product, like, that's not their fault. They're expensive. That's your fault.
Yeah.
And they're not claiming to be some sort of cheapo, UPS type service. They're like, we're here for people that need us in an emergency, and we're going to cost a lot of money because, and it all makes sense if you sit there and think about the model. But
the first time I was asked to hotshot something, I remember calling them and I got the price on it. I'm like,
yeah,
you're kidding me.
Yeah.
But they're like, yeah, we need it there. We need it there right now. Like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Like, the same amount of money, but okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the key being, if you're looking at your suppliers and, or let's say you're doing an assessment and you're analyzing multiple suppliers, and generally assuming the part's the same, the cheaper person is probably most like your business, and if you're able to find that, then
I agree. Totally
assuming they're priced right. Like I said, they could just be crap. They could be a crap business and they're on their way out the door, and that, you're going to get a crap product. But, if like the coding example you were talking about, Kyle, maybe touch on that for a second.
So I've talked about this a few times before, but it was just really cool. So we'd gone through a lot of coding vendors for a few years, just using them for
coating,
things.
Not coding.
I'm sorry?
Coating, not coding.
Yes, coding with a T.
Yeah.
We've gone through a lot of these folks, but they're pretty standard, pretty standard codings. Whether I use this guy or use this guy, maybe there's a 10% difference in price.
Yeah.
I just need whoever's going to get it to me on time. But when you start getting into some of those more critical type things, we chose to start developing some new coding methods, new coding recipes, new types of codings. This was going to be something that was going to set us apart from our competition, that we could provide you this better coding. It lasts longer, higher thermal properties. The short version is when gas turbines are fired, they're often fired above the melting temperature of the alloy.
Yeah.
And if not above, really close to it, all sorts of corrosion and nasty stuff happens. These parts eat away. So they'll put these coatings on it that even have like extra elements in it that can be stripped off over time so that you can control the erosion and anyways, all sorts of cool stuff. But it's really, really technical crap.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we might have 20 elements in some of these things, and then they're applied at so many thousands of degrees at so many, feet per second velocity out of a gun. Really complicated stuff.
Coding.
And we tried to work with, 3-4 different shops, and we finally decided to put all our eggs in one basket for one shop.
Yeah.
It worked well, but it meant we're working with them. They were halfway an employee of the company.
And that's, that's according to all the quality people, like how it should be,
Yeah, it worked. We got a really damn good product out of it. It was really funny. A few years later, several years later, when I started doing third-party ISO audits, actually got called out to audit the guy as a third-party auditor, and I had to call up the certification body and be like, I worked with this guy a long time ago. Like, well, how recently? And they let it go, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you could break that apart so many different ways. Like, the reason they were able to be cheap is because of, you know, their suppliers and what they had access to, and it matched up with what you guys needed access to. So
yeah,
those are the types of suppliers that you need to be on the lookout for.
It is.
And it takes time to find, or you may have to ask a couple people, hey, you know, can you do better? Did you actually look at your process and you know, analyze what the actual cost is, or did you just throw me an estimate and now you're not even going to get my business, that kind of thing. So
yeah, but it broke down. I mean, you talk about doing like specific for one. I mean, the way we had these coding specs developed, I mean, I really don't think we could have given it to another supplier. We would have had to re-engineer the process somehow so that they could do the same quality work.
Well, and that's, you know, going forward, it's like one of the things since I moved away from Houston, you know, to this smaller city here in Kansas, is like, in Houston, you're able to go and find 9 or 10 or 100 different coding shops and find that person that's good for you. You know, over here, we may have like 2.
Yeah.
You know? So then you gotta. So I was just thinking, I was like, man, that's why, you know, these big old manufacturing hubs, like, that's where everybody benefits.
Yeah.
Being a part of Houston, or, you know,
it is. I mean, it really is. But, you know, I find it, I don't know. It's just, it's hard to know what quality you're going to get out of someone till you try them sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Too.
But so we talk in supplier approval. I get this question. People kind of get a little deer headlight look sometimes. Why do we put them conditionally approved? I'm like,
so here's the topic now. Okay. So from vetting to validation. So
good. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So we know that we want to use them. We're going to try them out.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're like, look, 99% sure they're going to work out fine, but we have to have evidence that they're good. You put those new suppliers in as conditionally approved.
Okay.
You put them as conditionally approved. Then you have criteria that you're looking for. This will be documented in your procedure, because if this is someone that's providing safety equipment for you, show up on time. Give me what I asked for. Don't care about anything else. If this company that's doing heat treat work for you and they don't send you the copy of the logs with it, or you see that they had to restart the heat cycle a couple of times and you're like, well, why'd you do that? And they don't tell you.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, different criteria, different suppliers. You just work with them. You do a couple of jobs. You review those jobs. And after you've got 2 or 3 invoices, it went well, you document it and say, here is why we're now approving them as an approved supplier. And we'll reevaluate them. We'll do a formal reevaluation in, say, 2 years. In 24 months, we'll do a formal reevaluation. In the meantime, every time they screw up, you document it.
Yeah. Okay.
So what else you got here?
Red flags. I mean, I think you just mentioned a couple, you know, like with the heat treat, like why I personally, the best, or not the best, but the most obvious and one of the highest priority for me is punctuality.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody doesn't show up, or they're not hitting deadlines, or, you know, use your better judgment on what caused that. But if you call somebody out for an inspection and they're 3 hours late and you're sitting there production stopped, waiting on a check, or, you know, that's not acceptable.
Well, so some of that just will go without saying, but some of it too, it's like, well, your opinion might be different than my opinion.
Yeah.
Of what's important, what's a red flag.
Yeah.
Write a work instruction and say, we're going to issue a non-conformance, or we're going to follow up with the supplier. We're going to take some action if any of these occur.
Yeah.
Right. So like any heat treat work, it's not allowed to be late. If it's ever late, it's an issue. We have to have the logs. We have to have these. And you've already documented then. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. So you're documenting what the validation criteria is and all the paperwork you need with it, which we know is what API cares a whole lot about.
Yeah.
But you're also telling your team what you care about.
Yeah.
And it's there. And you put it right there. Print it, put it up on the wall where receiving is.
Yeah.
That could work.
Yeah. And it could be that, you know, it's a whole different story. If you're waiting on an inspection, some dude shows up 3 hours late, not a phone call, not an email, versus some guy's running 2 hours late. You get a call from, say, the shop manager or the owner of the company, like, hey, I understand we're late. That's a different story, but
it is. It is. Which is so funny because everyone thinks about quality as everything's cut and dry. It's all black and white. And like, no, you're working with people.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things that have to be cut and dry, have to be perfect. But in a lot of the day-to-day iterations of life, you're kind of working with people, and you do have to work with them as such. Like I say, you got to treat your suppliers as partners in your business, at least those really critical suppliers to your business. Maybe you're not treating Grainger like a partner, but maybe you're treating your heat treat company that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, or the testing company that you use daily.
Yep. That guy that has the mobile NDT van coming into your shop every single day.
Yeah.
Maybe we treat him differently than we do the guy that delivers our office supplies.
Yeah.
Or the Centos guy.
All right. Well, last topic probably. When suppliers fall short. So what do we do?
Document a non-conformance report. Because what will happen, we're humans. It's human nature. Something's going to go wrong. And I deal with this supplier frequently just because of the nature of my job.
Yeah.
But I'm unaware how many other suppliers we use and how often we deal with things. So I think this supplier is just the absolute worst one under the sun.
Yeah.
Because they really screwed up this one time and it cost me 3 or 4 days. I'm just pissed off about it all the time.
Yeah.
We're people.
Yeah.
Go look at the non-conformance reports. If that's the one and only one you have for that supplier, I mean, call them up, tell them, hey, this really hurt us. Document what they said and close it and move on.
Yeah.
On the other hand, sometimes we get nose blind to it. Like, oh, they're always a day or two late. I know. Yeah. I order it in advance because I know they're going to be late.
Yeah.
Come on, document that crap.
Yeah. My mind was going the same way I think yours was. There is like, we are very guilty as humans of making the wrong trend analysis based off of how we feel about someone. It's
emotion gets in the way. I mean, there's a time and place for emotion, but supplier evaluation ain't it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you have to have the data being the key point.
So if you've got a supplier that has, and you can have a threshold in it so that you know when to go dig deeper. Say you have a supplier that has more than 2 non-conformance reports issued in a 6-month period of time, or more than 5 in a year, or whatever it might be. That means that they're immediately called to be reevaluated. Okay, well, cool. But you may look and say, hey, we had 6 NCRs from these guys, but you ordered product 200 of the 300 days of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an issue, maybe it ain't. But you got to treat each situation a little bit like its own situation.
Do you have any crazy examples off the top of your head where world's worst supplier? And anything you've seen? I mean, if not, that's why.
Okay, so
worst supplier you've ever seen.
let me see here. Trying to think about that. All right, so we've got a customer that has a supplier. I won't give too many details about what it is, but they incorporate this supplier's product into their product each time, right? And it's one of their best selling products.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll just call it, Acme Plastic. Okay. So Acme Plastic has always been a good supplier, very valuable, pretty expensive, but the company gets to make a good profit off of it. Still, life's good. Doesn't quite fall into the idiot part category. And things have been going pretty well for like 10 years. But then what seemed like all of a sudden out of nowhere, they are continually late. They're sending the wrong product, the wrong material, the wrong grade of it. They're sending it to the wrong location. They're losing the orders. And we went from having 1 or 2 non-conformances a year to 26 in about a 3-month period of time.
Holy cow.
So people had been really fussing and arguing and fighting about what do we do about it, and it was just bringing the mood of everyone, darn near everyone in the office down. Because everyone's dealing with the side effects of this. So we started documenting these as non-conformance reports. We then started documenting our supplier corrective actions, sending the supplier corrective action to them, following up on it until it can get closed. And what wound up happening is they were then able to go from like their account person they're talking to their boss, and finally get to like the corporate quality person. Corporate quality person had no idea these things were this bad. You truly didn't know.
And sheesh, yeah.
And the only reason they were able to get to him is because they had the papers in hand.
Yeah.
They said, sure, we will send you the 26 nonconformance reports that we have had over the last 3 months. They'll detail the purchase order number, everything, full communication. Here you go. Would you like that? And he's like, you have that? Yeah. We have that. So it's really cool, though, because they were able to do this. Acme Plastics was able to change their process. What they had done is they had centralized a lot of local offices around the country. A lot of, I think, like 5 different manufacturing plants. They centralized them into one.
Yeah.
And it screwed everything up.
Yeah.
But once they were able to let them know, I mean, it took a while, but they were willing to work with their supplier, and we documented it in the corrective action that, like, look, we're not issuing a new SCAR here because they're actively working it and we know what's going on. We're going to keep documenting the NCRs and we'll communicate those to them each time. But they were able to work with them. Now that company's got their act together, what's really cool to me is it's not just my customer that gets to do better. It's now everyone that uses them has a better time.
Yeah. And I mean, the company itself is doing better.
Yeah.
So,
and just you document, review, call them up, say, hey, I got a problem here. We're getting a lot of issues with you. Were you aware this is happening?
No, well,
I didn't know.
And, as you were setting the stage there, I was thinking, like, holy cow, that's why we should all be doing the risk assessment of, like, what happens when your most key supplier that supplies half of what you do starts messing up because, somebody, a position change or, centralization of their, but you should, I think, arguably, like, if you're that close with the supplier, you should have seen that coming. Like, that supplier, like, if you have that relationship, they would have already been talking to you. They would have already been saying, or you would have caught wind of that and been like, hey, I hear this is happening. Is this going to affect us? What do we do if it does? That kind of thing. So that's where that partnership comes in.
It is. And I will say this customer of ours now, they're doing a really, honestly, a really damn good job with a number of because they've got a few other suppliers that are very critical like this, and they're doing a really good job of keeping up with them now, maintaining that relationship. But because you're now reporting on these non-conformance reports, it gives them a really good communication channel, and you can talk to them about it. And I mean, I hate to use language like this, I don't know the other way. It's like, you're not just bitching at them. You're giving them objective evidence. This happened. We don't want it happening no more.
Yeah. So TQA Cloud software tracks all non-conformances and connects them to suppliers.
It makes it easy. So whether you're using TQA Cloud or someone else's tool, you need to monitor your supplier performance by recording your non-conformance reports.
Yeah.
That's it. If you do that, you have saved yourself so much time. But again, so like all of these things about supplier approval, right? The paperwork that we want to get, the validation, the purchase order, identifying requirements. These are all bare minimums, right? If you're doing these things, you're getting the 70 or 75. If you want to go get that 95, again, if we're in school taking a test, you want to go get that 95. Well, then you start treating your critical suppliers as partners.
Yeah.
Then you start trying to help your supplier's business so that they can in turn help yours. How might that be? We actually help our supplier buy equipment.
Yeah.
He couldn't buy the equipment that he really needed. So we said, cool, we'll help finance it. And you're just going to cut us a deal for next year.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, cool. I'll do that.
Yeah.
We had no restrictions that he couldn't use that equipment for anyone else. It's like, no, we're going to build your business so you're awesome so you can be better for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It worked.
I think there's all kinds of creative ways to, once you find somebody that you trust and you build a relationship with, then I mean, like you were saying, they're basically an employee of the place, or you're an employee of their place. Like,
I mean, it was not uncommon to see him at our shop and we were out at his, and it's just like, all right, he's almost a different location in our business. Actually, I did have a couple of inventory bins that were at his shop.
Yeah.
In case, but you can't do all that cool stuff effectively unless you have these minimums in place.
Yeah.
So identify who the critical suppliers are, the critical products and critical services. Last kind of tip I'll leave for folks is when you're setting that reevaluation criteria, because yes, you do have to reevaluate them on some frequency. You cannot say, well, we have reevaluated them as we use them.
Yeah.
Direct materials should be 24 to 36 months. A direct materials company doesn't change dramatically frequently.
Yeah.
On the other hand, or if they do, it's something like this Acme Plastics ones where it's just like in your face, something went crazy wrong.
Yeah.
A service company should be every 12 to 24 months, because service companies, a lot of the quality of service depends on the people.
Yeah. Turnover.
That's it. 12 to 24 for service, 24, 36 for direct material. That's it.
Yeah.
So I ain't got nothing else. You got anything to add?
Nope. Another world problem solved.
It is, man. Well, I guess whenever we get all these problems solved, well, then all we'll have left is the software to keep us in business.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, hey, everyone, if you haven't already, like, share, subscribe. Legitimately, it helps us out. So we love putting all this content out, but we can't keep putting it out if it don't work, because I like to make a profit just like you do. And we put all this out for free, so help us keep it that way. We hope to talk to you soon. Thank you much. Cool. Thank you, man. That was good. Well, here, I'll hop on Teams and I'll just put a little headset on. I'm going to chat here in just a second.
Stop the recording there.
Yeah. Oh, crap. Dang it.
That's okay.
Well, I guess this will just be a little blooper at the end.